You have gifts to share with the world. You know it, you feel it, it's inside of you. This podcast is going to help you make sure that you don't let your gifts go ungiven. Welcome to the podcast where we believe action is what creates courage and embracing your authentic self is the key to success. I'm your host, Melanie Diane Howe. Join me as I help you break through limiting beliefs and embrace your true personal brand to market yourself. I'm going to help you overcome fears and take action to create more courage, more confidence, more content, and more visibility so that you can make progress toward your dreams. This is starting to sound like a mindset podcast, which it is, but I'll also teach you tips, technology, and techniques to create better content you're not only proud of, but also speaks to your audience. Whether you're an entrepreneur or someone seeking personal growth, tune in for straight up, no nonsense advice that'll help you show up, take action, and become the badass you're meant to be. You belong here. Now let's get to work. Hey, welcome back to the show. So really excited that you're here, mostly feeling pretty grateful that you are spending your time with me today, hanging out and listening to some helpful tips. And if you are new here, super grateful for you as well. Welcome to the show. This is going to be fun. So today I want to talk to you guys about the process of preparation. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but really, I think that sometimes we overlook how powerful preparation is. And so what I mean by this is that when you're prepared, when you go to sit down to create content or heck, I mean, really anything, honestly, but we're mostly going to focus on creating content, whether it's a podcast, sitting down to work on your website, record a YouTube video, do a live stream, any of those things. Being prepared creates so much power for you. And most of the reason for this is because, the process of creating content takes energy. It absolutely takes energy to even get ready for it, to get yourself psyched up for it. Some people really do struggle with sitting down to record or create because, you deal with imposter syndrome or maybe you're tired from other things going on in your life and you just got to find that energy to show up, right? It's almost like getting yourself to the gym, getting yourself to go work out. Sometimes it can be difficult and daunting to actually just get there. But once you're there, typically you're in pretty good shape, right? Like you actually get through it, you do a good job, you feel great. But when it comes to creating content, when you are actually prepared before you sit down during your session of creating, you are going to actually find more success if you've done the work ahead of time leading up to the actual time it is for you to create. So what I want to break down is in this episode, what these phases are, but then also give you some tips on how you can be more prepared. And then I'll even share with you some of my favorite apps that I like to use that really contribute to this kind of process of preparation, if you will. So let's get into it. So first, I want to talk about the 3 phases that go into this process. So the first phase is brainstorming. This is where you are going to come up with ideas for your actual content. The second phase is planning and really preparation. It's the detailed part of the work, actually prepping the details of what you're going to be doing. And then, of course, there is the actual creation or production phase. So I do not recommend that you do all 3 of these together. I recommend that you do them completely separately because the way our brains are wired, you have your left brain and your right brain, and really everybody's brain, even though some of us are more creative and some of us are a little bit more pragmatic or more practical, we all have the creative piece of our brain and then we all have that practical part of our brain, right? So when you are brainstorming, I want you to have freedom. I want you to be completely free, not thinking about strategy too much, not overthinking the details, just brainstorming. There's this rule when it comes to brainstorming that during brainstorming, there is no bad idea. There are just some ideas that are better than others. And so if you unlock this freedom and let your brain just kind of run wild, I mean, literally not limiting yourself with any of your own limiting beliefs or, oh, that would be a fun idea, but I'm not ready for that. Or, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if I could XYZ? My audience, they wouldn't like that. You cannot do that. You literally just need to run wild and go free. So if you're sort of planning while brainstorming or trying to think through the details while you're brainstorming, you are going to shut down so much creativity and you're actually going to limit the ideas that you could be developing. So I am 100% a proponent of just do the brainstorming completely separate from everything else. And at times, you're going to have ideas that hit you outside of these brainstorming sessions, if you will, if that's how you want to describe them. So you are going to need a way to capture ideas while you're brainstorming, but also have a way to capture an idea that might hit you on the fly. So you can never really prepare yourself for moments of inspiration. Maybe you're watching YouTube. Maybe you're on a walk. Maybe you're in the shower. I mean, literally, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know I am a fan of what I call naked whiteboard sessions, because sometimes the best ideas come to me in the shower. And I truly believe it's because there's nothing there. It's you, the water, and the soap and the shampoo, and you don't have the kids to take care of. You don't have the TV on. You're not on your phone. Your brain actually has a little bit of freedom in this moment. And it's kind of just like your quiet time. I know it sounds crazy, but I guarantee it's happened to you before. These moments of inspiration hit you, even if it's in the shower. I get out of the shower and I literally have a Sharpie in my bathroom and I literally start writing stuff down. Not a Sharpie, excuse me, a dry erase marker. And I will start writing stuff on the mirror, which acts as my very quick hit whiteboard. So you're going to have times like this, even if you're not in front of a mirror while you're naked out of the shower, and you're going to need a way to capture those ideas. So again, I'll talk to you about some of the apps towards the end of the episode, but brainstorming is absolutely something that you need to sit down and do, but you need to find, how are you the most creative? How are you the most free? And sometimes a lot of people will meditate first, they'll go on a walk, then they'll come back from the walk. Sometimes people like to listen to music and sort of get them into the right mindset. But one of the biggest things is when you're in brainstorming mode, you need to eliminate any kind of distractions, because you need to basically set a timer, go through the process, let your brain go free for a certain amount of time. And then you need to be able to essentially move on to the next task. Because if you give yourself too much time to brainstorm, you're going to overthink. It's definitely going to happen. So I personally like a good, session of just setting a timer, letting yourself kind of just come up with these ideas and just get as many down on paper as possible, whether it's, sticky notes or writing them down or using an app. Like I said, I'll cover a couple of those at the end of the episode. Now, when it comes to brainstorming, there's a number of ways that you can develop these ideas, but I have an episode that I recorded that walks you through a process that I like to coach people through. And it's basically a way to come up with, I call 30 ideas in 30 minutes. Now, almost always you will probably come up with more than 30 ideas, but it's a great target to reach for, to just come up with 30 ideas. And it only takes 30 minutes if you go through the exercise. So I'll link to that episode in the show notes. So wherever you're listening to this, there will be a link to that episode in the description so that you can go listen to that episode. And then hopefully that will help you prepare for your brainstorming sessions. All right, now the next phase is planning. So planning the actual details of what it is you're going to be creating. So if this is, let's just say, you're going to do a podcast episode or a video. An example of sitting down and doing the work is to actually build out your outline, come up with your title, kind of come up with your description so that you can put all of that sort of detailed focus work off to the side, because again, you're going to want to preserve your energy when it comes time to actually do the creation. Now, a number of people, in fact, myself included, 100% guilty, skip this phase. So you might have an idea and it might be information that you're really passionate about or something that you just talk about all the time. So you may not feel like you need to do the preparation. I still highly encourage you to, at a minimum, develop a bit of an outline for yourself, because that's going to help you stay on track. It's going to help to make sure that you don't forget any particular details that you might want to share. But most importantly, when it's time to sit down and create this piece of content, all of that energy is completely preserved for you delivering the content. So you're just going to sit down, you're going to look at your outline, you're going to be ready to rock and roll. And if you skip this step, your brain is going to have to go through a short process of remembering the outline, remembering the information. Again, even if it's something you talk about all the time, having the outline right there in front of you right before it's time to actually press record or click go live, you're going to have all of the energy preserved because it's all right there. It's very similar to the elimination of decisions. So, if you've heard of, the story about Steve Jobs, how he wore the exact same outfit every single day, he did that so that he could preserve all of his mental energy and decision-making energy for his work, not on things like, what am I going to wear today? So he basically just wore the same outfit every day. This is another reason why people recommend, you plan your outfits all day long, whatever. It's a weird example, but it really is a thing. So by just having it there and ready to go, you sit down and boom, you are ready to rock and roll. Your brain is 100% preserved for delivering the content, even if it's stuff like the back of your hand. Now, if you are a script person, I'm going to give you a tip here, and I'm going to tell you that don't sit down to write your script. Now, when I say script, some of you like to write out all of your information before you record. So either for you to just get all your ideas out, or for you to use in like a teleprompter, or if you're doing a podcast, just reading from your screen. But I absolutely want to just make sure, sit down and write your outlines first. Then go back in and go and flesh out the scripts. You may not really have the energy to do this in the same session, but if you are in the flow or you're in the zone and you have the proper time and you're just feeling all that, then absolutely keep going. The only thing I want to make sure is that you actually start out with the outline first. So write your outline, then go back and write the script for each section of that outline. You're going to find that that's a much more efficient and a much better way to go through that process. Now, for my live streamers out there, part of this, detailed planning session is you also getting all of your supporting assets ready for your live stream. So this is your overlays, any videos that you might want to be playing, the tickers, the banners. So if you're using any of the streaming applications that allow you to, create this level of production, you want to go in and actually prepare your studio ahead of time as well. I do not recommend you do this right before your live stream for two reasons. One, again, I want you to save all of your energy for delivering your actual live stream. The other reason is that if you kind of do this right before you go live, more often than not, you're actually going to run out of time and you're not going to actually provide as much creativity. You're going to kind of play shortcuts. And sometimes that process of doing it right before is very stressful. So you're just not going to create as many great assets. You're going to be a little bit less creative because you're kind of rushing or you're feeling like you have this time crunch. And then most importantly, again, it's really mostly about the energy. I want you to have all of that ready to go like days in advance, not just hours in advance, but days in advance. So that when it's time to actually do your live, all that's done and you're just showing up and having a blast. Okay, let's keep moving. Now we're going to get into the next phase. This is the creating phase. This is the actual production of your content. So to be prepared, obviously all the stuff we just talked about, you are prepared to now sit down and create your content. But there is preparation that also contributes to this creation process. So number one, I want you to schedule it. I actually want you to plan when you're going to sit down and do the creative work. Now, if you're a live streamer, you're obviously going to be scheduling your live stream. So that's kind of, taking care of itself. But I want you to also make sure that you create buffer space. Buffer space is essentially you giving yourself however much time you need to make sure that you have enough time to kind of read through your notes, kind of get yourself situated. Because if you just sit down 5 minutes before it's time to go live, have you done the tech check? Do you have everything ready? I mean, what if something goes wrong? So buffer space is not only you just giving yourself, taking the necessary steps to ensure that everything's good to go, but also giving yourself a little bit of that like deep breath or just refreshing your notes, whatever it might be, so that when it's literally truly time to hit go live, all that energy is still yet to be preserved because you're not stressing, rushing at the last minute. You didn't just get off of a phone call or just get out of a meeting or whatever. You've had this buffer space. I want you to also create buffer space after your live stream, okay? So that in case you do go over a little bit or the conversation is going and it's great, you're still delivering amazing quality content and not stressing about some other thing that you have scheduled for yourself right after your live stream. Now, this applies even for my non-live streamers. So if you're recording podcast episodes or videos or writing or whatever it is, I like for you to create buffer space as well for all the same reasons. It's all about preserving energy. So make sure you have planned and scheduled enough of a time block so that you can adequately produce whatever it is you need to produce. So create the buffer space before and after, but really this is all about being a little bit methodical in scheduling the time. Now, also, if you're doing videos, you're video ready. if you've, maybe your hair and makeup's done, maybe it's like a full day of fully showering or shaving or whatever it is that you do in order to be video quality ready, your appearance and all, again, your energy, your background. Maybe you have a multi-purpose studio that also is your office, or maybe you don't have a studio and you have to set up in your, your dining room or your living room or wherever it might be. Well, you don't want to be doing that all the time. So I want you to consider recording more than one piece of content during this time block. This is called batching. In fact, what we just went through in the brainstorming process, the planning and doing all the prep work, that was also batch work. Now I want you to consider batching the creative process as well, because sometimes the whole start-stop of getting yourself or your studio or your environment ready to do this type of content is also something that takes energy and time and preparation. So why not maximize that time? If you have 3 videos that you can record for your month, do it all in one session if you can, because you're only setting up once, you're recording, and then you're tearing it all down. Now, again, this all is going to be unique to everybody because everybody's situations are different, but it's absolutely more efficient for you to even create in the batches as well. Doesn't work for everybody. Not everybody can, reserve that much time aside in order to do this. But if you can, I highly recommend it, because the other thing that typically will happen is that after you get done with, whatever piece of content number 1, because you've done all this preparation ahead of time, you actually, I guarantee, are going to deliver it more effectively as well. You're going to have less takes, less errors. You're just going to have even more time and energy to go on and say, maybe I'll go ahead and produce another piece of content because I'm feeling on fire right now. I'm in the flow, I'm in the zone, and I'm loving it because I just got done with this. So as we all know, action creates more action. So if you are in that flow, I want you to make sure that you have planned enough in advance, but also planned enough in your schedule that you can actually do more than one piece of content at a time. It is absolutely a tactic. If you listen to successful entrepreneurs, successful creators, they will almost all say that they do their work in batches because it's just the way it works, and it allows them to have more time in their day, more time in their schedule because of them being more efficient with how they are going about these tasks. It also has a lot to do with the mindset that you're in. So that's why I said I personally like to break this process up into 3 phases: brainstorming, planning, and creating. And each one of those phases should be treated separately. And if you batch the work, then you have all these ideas, you've done all the planning for multiple pieces of content, and then you can even batch the creative process as well. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover before we wrap this episode up, I promised you I would provide you with some tools or applications that I think support this entire process that I just went through, or methodology or approach or whatever you want to call it. So I'm just going to rattle off a few of these tools that I find very useful. Now, the thing that's great is there are so many tools out there, so many. So some of the ones that I mentioned today, there are multiple other alternatives to these tools. So if you're already using something that's similar to one I mentioned, I'm not recommending you change it. I'm just simply recommending, use the tools. That's really all there is to it. So the first one I want to talk about, pretty popular these days, ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to help you in so many ways. So in the brainstorming phase, ChatGPT is fantastic. You can actually provide a lot of detail about what you do, what kind of content you're trying to create, and you can literally just say, please give me a bunch of video ideas that will help support people who are learning how to blah, 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 right? Fill in the blank, whatever it is that you want to do. Or, you can go as far as asking for, ideas. If you're like a fitness channel, ask for exercises. If you can even ask ChatGPT, what are people struggling with in fill in the blank, right? And it's going to start to give you these answers based on all this data that it's able to gather and digest and determine and just go through the process. It's literally like magic. It's wonderful and it's very fast. The other thing I want to recommend that you do is, as you give it these prompts and you ask for ideas, and you're kind of like, okay, that's interesting. I like those 2 ideas out of the 10 it just gave me. Well, then ask for it to break those 2 ideas down into even more ideas. So you can actually go through ChatGPT, and it's almost like you're having a conversation. So think of it that way and approach it that way. So ChatGPT is fantastic for brainstorming. It's also great for the planning work. Literally, It is like an assistant to you sitting there and helping you go through this process. So let's say you pick one of your ideas and you say, okay, that is a great idea. I am absolutely going to flesh that one out. Well, you can actually use ChatGPT and say, will you please break down the process of fill in the blank, whatever title you chose. And it's literally going to probably outline it for you. Now, here's what I will say. Use it as a guide. Do not use it as a script, and do not use it as, the everything that there is to it. ChatGPT is a great tool. It's not perfect, and it's also not you. So make sure you're only using it as an assistant, not a replacement. I say this all the time. Artificial intelligence should be utilized as an assistant and not as a replacement, especially when it comes to this way that you can utilize artificial intelligence. So definitely also use ChatGPT for the planning phase and the detailed work that you're doing as well. I just don't recommend that you use it to write scripts because it's never going to be you. It's just never, ever going to be you. Use it as a tool and then edit away. Okay, so other applications that I think support the brainstorming process, Trello, Trello. It's an application that's been around for a very long time. I absolutely love it. I've talked about it multiple times on the podcast, many, many, many times before. But the reason why I like Trello is because it's great for the brainstorming phase because it's very fluid. It lets you be very flexible because sometimes if your brain's wired like mine, brainstorming and writing down ideas can be a little bit challenging if you don't have at least a little structure. And the thing about brainstorming is you shouldn't have structure because you don't even know where your brain's going to go. So I am always like, oh, I need to put these in categories. Well, no, not necessarily. Just throw all the ideas out and then you can categorize them if you want to. Trello makes this very easy because it utilizes a system of cards and lists, and you can move everything around. Very, very, very flexible. I love it, love it, love it. Another application that's very similar is called Asana. Both of these are project management applications, but they're also really good for gathering ideas. Now, Asana will also allow you to structure your ideas in the boards. That's what these are called, boards. So you can actually create a project in Asana and use cards as well, or you can use the list format. Either one works. You can rearrange all the ideas, all the tasks, whatever it is. So now the reason I love Asana is because it's a really great project management application. So if you wanted to take it to the next step in your planning, and part of planning is also scheduling, then you could actually create a schedule. So you put due dates in for the tasks that need to go into all the details that you need to flesh out for your ideas once you're in that planning and detailed work phase. So it's kind of like you can start in Asana and then you can keep going in Asana. Technically, you can do the exact same thing in Trello. I just prefer Asana when it comes to the project management piece of things. So again, Asana, Asana, another application. It's been around for a really long time. Both of them have free versions that are very robust and wonderful. You probably won't need the paid version to do what we're talking about today. Now, both of these applications you can put on your phone as well. They have apps. So like I said, if you're on a walk or you're having one of those moments of inspiration, like we talked about earlier in the episode, you can actually pull your phone out, open it up, type in the idea. The other thing that I like to use sometimes, because I want to do a little more than just type with my two thumbs. I actually hate typing a lot of information on my phone. It's just something that bothers me. I like to use Voxer, Voxer. Now, I utilize this application to communicate with a couple of my business besties. Shout out to Heather Sager and Crystal Profit. We have like a 4-year Vox going now where we always keep in touch with each other. But it's basically a voice memo. You're sending a voice message, a recording, and you're sending it. Now, you can create a Vox to just yourself. And so you can actually just hit record and just start talking about the idea, maybe explain where the idea came from. If there's a story, you could just sort of like kind of throw out your ideas in the moment because you're on the fly and maybe you're walking, maybe you're driving and you don't want to be typing on your phone. So I actually do like to use Voxer and I will record voice memos to myself. The trick is you need to go back when you're done, a couple of days later or whenever, and then take that voice memo idea and then put it into whatever other tool or whatever other place you're capturing these ideas. So with that being said, I also love Google Docs. Google Docs is a great way. Now you can use, there's Microsoft's version of this as well. You can use OneNote, whatever. But I like Google Docs because it's a really great way for me to actually go in and do the detailed work. So this is where I put my outlines. This is where I put in my titles, my descriptions, all the information that I want to actually capture for that planning stage. So, and you can link the Google Docs to any of the other applications I just talked about, but I just really like to use Google Docs to type the actual notes and all those details that I need to put in there for each piece of content. All right, the last app that I want to mention as it supports this kind of batch work, stuff here is Canva. Canva has been around for a really long time. You're probably already using it or you've already heard of it, but I really like to use Canva because it's a great way to organize, but also utilize templates so that you have the same look and feel from one piece of content to the other. So this is really fantastic for thumbnails, for your blog posts, or for even your podcast episodes, but also for your live streams. And so if you are doing overlays or you're creating little videos that you want to put into each of your live streams, Canva is going to allow you to get that kind of layout started. And then you just can go in and you can edit these slides or videos so that you are kind of keeping that consistent look and feel, which again is going to save you time down the road because all you're doing is opening up something you've already created for a previous piece of content. You're editing it or you're duplicating it and making an alternate version. And it has the same look and feel, but it's also, you're literally just changing the content. You're not having to design something brand new from scratch again. And I like Canva for this because of the way it helps you stay organized. So you can use folders. You can just keep going in the same design and just keep adding pages to it. There's a million ways that you can be organized in Canva. You can also collaborate with others with it. But I just think Canva helps with this batch process because of the way it's set up, the way that you are just able to save these templates and just keep going. You can even create a new design from an old design. So if you have a slide deck, you can convert it to a video. Though the possibilities are endless, and this is not going to become a Canva episode, but huge fan of Canva in the supporting of this creative process. Okay, we did it. I will link to all of those applications, by the way, in the show notes, like I mentioned before, so that it's easy for you to go find them, check them out. Absolutely huge fan of all of them. But again, there's a lot of others out there. So if you're using something already and it's supporting this process, you don't need to change it. You can, of course, dabble in options. But one of the things that's also going to help you stay efficient is not changing your process all the time. So hopefully, if you aren't feeling like you have the energy to create content because you're always dreading the process, it could be because of the way you're approaching all of this preparation. So this is all about creating power with preparation. So preparation creates power, and that's absolutely what I want you to do because I want you to feel powerful and I want you to look forward to that moment, that creative process when it's time to create your content because your audience deserves your energy. And if your energy is being stolen by the process, then we need to change the process. So maybe give this process a try. I would love to hear from you and know how it's working for you. So if we are connected on the socials, send me a DM and let me know. If we're not connected, find me over on Instagram. It's probably the easiest place to find me, to send me a message and just let me know how your thoughts are. Let me know if you love it. If you're listening to this on YouTube, just simply comment down below and let me know your thoughts. All right, my friend, there you have it. We're going to wrap this one up, put a bow on top, and we're all going to go and have an awesome day. Preserve your energy, get that stuff done, use the process, be prepared, and have fun while you're doing it. Have a great day.